Hey everybody. Hey, so we're gonna fill in the third box on the cover of our Invention blueprints now with the engineer. So you're gonna be the engineer of your invention. And engineers use mostly the left side of their brain, and they help keep us safe. And they make sure things are built in such a way where it's safe for people to use, and they figure out all of the math and the physics, which is the science behind it. So they're using the left side of their brain, their left hemisphere mostly. And the architects, the people who are the designers, they use more of the right side, and they figure out how it all looks. So the architects show you how it looks, right? And they figure that out. And the engineers figure out all of the logistics, right? They use the left side, and they help to see how it can be safe, and they use math and science to do that. So let's read a really cool book called Rosie Revere the Engineer. This is also by Andrea Beatty, and she's just a wonderful author. And you can see here too, that graph paper we talked about. So engineers and architects use graph paper so that way their drawings can be really precise and they can be measured properly, because these little squares help guide them. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid out her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. Look at all those really cool machines that she's built. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye. And she made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. So helium is what you get in your balloons for your birthday party maybe. It makes the balloons float up high to the sky. So look at these pants. They're making the man go whoop. The uncle she loved most was zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. Stella can tell us what a python is, right? A python is a big giant snake. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud, but Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat, and then she looked away. "I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, I truly do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day, she kept her dreams to herself. Oh, man. And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and the goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. "The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers, as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams." Well, that night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky, and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. So she worked and she worked till the day was half gone, and then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop that it might turn out to be. So cool. It's covered. It's all covered, her Hello Cheese copter. Wow. Wow. Okay, here we go. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch, and the Hello Cheese copter sputtered and it twitched. It floated a moment and then whirled round and round, and then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. And then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere. It was just like the guy in the beginning, right? She thought, oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, or a switch or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer. So she turned round to leave, but then her great-great-aunt Rose grabbed hold of a young Rosie, and she pulled her in close. And she hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. You did it! Hooray! It was a perfect first try. The great flop is over. It's time for the next. Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, and perplexed. She's confused. I failed, said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed. Well, yes, said her great aunt. It crashed, that is true, but first it did just what you wanted it to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. Remember, persevere, persevere, don't quit, keep on trying. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head, and she sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear, to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. And look, I love this last illustration here. There she is waving to her aunt in the Hello Cheese copter. Okay, let's fill out the engineer box on your blueprints. Let's do that. So, let's see. We're going to sound out engineer. Like elephant is E, N, J. This is a tricky one because it's not a J, but it's a soft G. J. I, N, ear. So we're going to do E, 2 E's. R. And we're going to put those 2 dots for a colon again. And then you're going to write your first and your last name again, right? So I'm going to write Lauren Boyle, right? That's my name. So I'm going to write that. But you are going to write your first and last name, right? So here we go. Lauren Boyle. So Livy is going to write Livy Rouse on hers, right? And then you're going to do that right there in that third box on your Invention blueprint cover. Next, we're going to talk about where these plans are created, and we're going to fill in the 4th box on our Invention blueprints. Okay? See you in a minute.